season this year, coming off our strongest in a long time, with 10 of our 12 teams making bowl games last year. This season looks like it's going to be deep and exciting again. Glad to be here. Happy to take any questions you guys have.
Well, the obvious question, I guess, is do you have an update on the DirecTV thing?
I don't have any update. No, our team is talking to them regularly, and there's been no progress, unfortunately. I know it's very frustrating for our fans, as it is for us. In our 5th season, DirecTV customers not able to get it, but there are good signs of progress and momentum in other areas as we continue to sign additional distributors, and our first over-the-top deal with Sling TV. So increasingly, there'll be more and more ways for fans to get the network, but we're going to keep knocking on the door of DirecTV.
Do you have any numbers for Sling TV yet?
I don't. No, we just launched on them this last month. I've seen some estimates, but I don't have any exact numbers. But I think the greatest significance of it is the first deal that we've done with a provider that offers it to anyone, regardless of who your cable or satellite provider is, in a much more low-cost way. And there's various negotiations our teams are having with other over-the-top providers. And the industry is changing very rapidly, and over the next couple of years, it's going to be a lot more different ways for fans to access the Pac-12 Network's content.
Is the conference concerned with these really large deficits being run in some of the athletic departments and the potential for Cal to maybe lose some Olympic sports because of it?
Certainly, we follow that and want our athletics departments to be healthy and robust. We don't really get involved in the expense side of the universities and kind of how they spend, but we obviously read about it. I talk to our campuses about it when I visit with them, and we do what we can to help in terms of revenue generation and trying to do things all schools can collaborate in across the board to save money. We know it's a very competitive landscape for athletics departments as they're trying to compete and they're trying to improve their facilities and get the best coaches they can and trying to keep up with schools in other parts of the country. So, important area, but individual school situations we don't really get involved in.
You couldn't see the conference stepping in if there were the chance to lose some of those Olympic sports that the conference is so vested in?
Well, we do pride ourselves on our Olympic sports success. We're known as the Conference of Champions for a good reason. We've won many more NCAA championships than any other, and continue to do so. We won 10 NCAA championships this last year. We're certainly very mindful of the success of current and former Pac-12 student athletes at the Rio Olympics and actively promote that. So I think that's a real hallmark and signature of the conference, is our broad-based success across the board, and I think it's near and dear to the heart of our schools. So, on average, we have more sports that we sponsor than any other conference, aside from maybe the Ivy League. So it's a real source of pride, and I'm sure those decisions wouldn't be taken lightly by our campuses.
At which point, is there a point where if negotiations with DirecTV aren't working out that you guys revisit your model and do something more in line with like the SEC network and ESPN and that sort of a partnership? Has that been discussed at all?
Well, we always are looking at the landscape, and we believe we have the best model for us long term. We like owning and controlling the network, and feel like as the industry continues to develop and technology companies get more and more involved and over the top starts to happen, having control and ownership of your content will be increasingly valuable. Obviously, we also still want to generate as much revenue as possible for the schools, get as much exposure, and are frustrated that DirecTV hasn't picked it up. But there's no better model for us out there at the moment, but we're always looking and evaluating. In terms of whether we make any changes, we have over 75 distributors. We've been profitable since the first year. So there's a lot of success and a lot of momentum that we have, but it's a very rapidly changing landscape, and we're always monitoring it.
What kind of pushback are you getting from the membership on revenue generation? I know there's got to be some frustration that it hasn't been as accelerated as maybe it was thought.
Yeah, it's actually met all the expectations our schools had when we launched Network. We launched it on the heels of our ESPN and Fox contracts, which were the biggest of any conference at the time. And the highest bar for the network when we launched it was exposure. It wasn't additional revenue. Having said that, it's very competitive. And two other conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC, have had networks that have generated a lot of revenue for the schools. So, yeah, it's a very competitive, pressure-filled landscape. So there's always pressure. I always feel pressure from our campuses to do whatever we can, generate more revenue, more exposure, whatever we can do. But long term, I think we got a great model. Our conference is different from others in terms of the fan base, in terms of the size of our markets. You know, we're different on a lot of levels. But we're happy with the performance of the network, but we'll never be satisfied, and the schools always want more, and I get that.
Are you concerned at all with the home attendance at games? I know Oregon just stopped selling out for the first time in years.
There are ebbs and flows in each school depending on how a team's doing in a given season. I was just in Seattle last night, and that was the first sellout they had in a while, and things definitely on the upswing there. And, so we definitely have some campuses that are on the upswing, others where there's some softening. I think that's natural depending on kind of how a team's doing at any given time. I've been in Utah, I've been at ASU, I've been several schools so far where attendance is generally strong. I mean, maybe pockets where it may be softening, but in general, I think attendance will be pretty good.
Does it feel like maybe there's a little changing of the guard this year? It seems like Washington and Colorado ascending, and you think that's good for the league?
I think it's great for the league. I mean, I look at it from maybe a different lens than an individual fan base might look at. I think that depth and competitiveness across the board is the hallmark of a strong conference, a great conference. And by definition, that means in any given year you might have teams emerging. But as a commissioner, you'd like to see as many teams as possible being competitive. So coming off a season where 10 of our 12 teams make bowl games, have winning records, I mean, that's great. So I like to see that. By the same token, given the way college football is laid out with college football playoffs, that you want to see teams that are making college football playoffs, so you want to league teams as well. And the other thing I'd say, if you ask me what my wish list is, having a national champion is going to be important for our conference. It's been since 2004 that our conference has had a national champion. And I think until we ascend to the top of the pyramid again, and we have a team holding a national championship trophy, we're still not getting the respect and attention our conference deserves. And it's just human nature. So I like the depth, but would like to see us be winning championships too.
Larry, what's the impetus behind the Pac-12's sort of like move to go international? I mean, it seems like you guys are traveling a lot and doing a lot of things.
The impetus is the priority for our universities, that our universities are global. They've got global student bodies, global faculty, global alumni, research affiliations all over the world. That's what really hit me in my first 6 months in the job back in 2009 when I visited all our campuses. I was just stunned at the focus on globalization by our university presidents and what they were doing, and that's when the thought emerged, if athletics is the front porch of the universities, do we have a role to play in helping our universities as they globalize? And so that's what got it started, and what I found along the way is not only do these global tours like Cal playing football in Australia, or Pac-12 All-Star team playing basketball in China, or Stanford and Harvard are about to play the opening tip-off game of the season. Not only does it help create promotion for our universities, but it's amazing opportunities for our student athletes. In talking to folks at Cal after their opening football game against Hawaii in Sydney this year, I was completely moved when they told me 85 of the student athletes on their roster had to get passports for the first time in their life to make that trip. So that's 85 individuals that had never been outside the U.S. before, probably would have gotten through school and never had traveled outside the U.S. before, and they're getting a life-changing experience as a result. So that wasn't the original impetus for it, but there's been a lot of benefits our schools have seen, and every one of our schools is talking to us about opportunities.
Do you see that happening more, kind of like the NFL with Wembley and like with what they do in England?
Yeah, I could see our Australia game, for example, potentially being an annual game where we rotate through different Pac-12 teams. This basketball game in China, we UW played Texas to open the season last year. First league to ever do a regular season game in China. This year, Stanford, Harvard, and I think that's getting traction. I could see that being an annual basketball game for us, and other opportunities. But I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't important to our schools.
Have the football coaches expressed interest in that, making that an annual thing?
Yeah. Sonny Dykes at Cal, told all our coaches what a great experience it is, and we've got others. In fact, discussed with Mike Leach. He spent a lot of time over in Europe, kind of proselytizing American football and I know he's keen to play a game overseas at some stage as well.
Do you have any advice for Rob Mullins about being on the playoff committee?
No, I don't really give advice, although I haven't talked to Pat Hayden, who had been through it. And I'm delighted that he's doing it. I think it's important that Pac-12 have a representative on that committee that's held in high regard. I esteem nationally. It's a big sacrifice, big commitment. I mean, he misses a few days a week that he's on the road, and he's haven't watched a lot of other games. But it's important that we're well represented, that we have influence on that committee.
With college football games going longer this year, averaging about 3.5 hours, is there any chance that moves the conference away from these 3-hour blocks that seem to lead to a lot of overlap for the networks?
Yeah, it is really, I would like it to be closer to 3-hour games rather than 3.5-hour games. There's a lot of variables that go into it. The style of offenses, a lot of plays, a lot of throwing with the spread. How many penalties there may be, whether games are close.
But considering those variables, could the conference stagger the games longer if it trends in that direction?
We've got some particular challenges during the first 3 weeks of the season. The non-conference week, when sometimes we have 3 or 4 games we've got to put on the network at any given time. So we've tried to make adjustments by having some games start at 11 a.m. Gives us kind of a longer window to work with. But unfortunately, if we have 3 or 4 games to put on our network at any given time, there's going to be some overlap.
Thanks so much.
Thanks very much.